they'll continue to tell their friends, and that's been the real catalyst for the business.
Hi, so we're gonna bring in Geoffrey Colon. Geoffrey, am I pronouncing your last name right? I only know you from the internet.
You are pronouncing it correct. How you doing, John?
Good. Before we get to what you do at Microsoft, I saw this breaking story in my Nuzzle feed. I love Jonathan Abrams. I love Nuzzle. Wonderful guy. And this has popped up in Nuzzle. According to Bloomberg, you see, I don't have a problem citing our competitors. I cite everybody. Do you guys notice that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Bloomberg is saying Snapchat passes Twitter in daily usage. The 4-year-old messaging app is said to have 150 million people using it each day. Geoffrey, what do you call by Jeff or Geoffrey?
Either or. Since we're internet friends, you can call me Jeff.
Okay,
John,
Jeff, what do you think of that?
Do you use Snapchat?
Of course
I do. Yeah. I mean, I think the interesting thing there is we've moved into a world that's all about video messaging. People want to create stories rather than texting. This is one of the issues I think Twitter has. The other issue is that people don't want to publicly announce everything as much as they did at one time. That's a big mountain, I think, for Twitter to climb that more than 140 characters isn't going to solve for.
Yeah, I think the last time we heard from Snapchat, it was that the daily users were that they just topped 100 million, and that was the end of last year. So obviously, that's pretty big growth in just the course of about 6 months or so, if that truly is the case. So talk to us, too, about what you do, Geoffrey, at Microsoft, and why visual communication is so important, like a Snapchat.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things we have to look at in terms of human behavior, and I think you guys have nailed it on the head. I mean, I've been a fan of John's for, I think I'm Cheddar's probably, biggest influencer. I constantly share the fact that, the feed is live and all the things that you guys do discuss. I think it's really fascinating. But the interesting thing in terms of communication now is you have 5 different generations in the workforce, and we all communicate very differently. And what we have to understand is that there is no wrong way to communicate. If you want to pick up a landline and call someone, that is totally fine. If you want to do a television advertisement because your audience is over 50, that's totally fine. But we have to also understand we have a large segment of the population below the age of 24, and they don't necessarily communicate that way. So it's really difficult, I think, for a lot of marketers to understand holistically how people communicate. I mean, that's the emphasis of what I really do at Microsoft, is really trying to understand human behavior and then working with marketing folks so that they can have a better way of communicating with those people, so they can partner with us more, so they can communicate with us more, so they can buy our products, etc. So they can actually inform how we improve those products. I think that's the biggest thing in 21st century business, is how does your customer actually help you improve your products.
And it's really interesting, when I first met you, I wasn't sure that you really worked at Microsoft, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, okay? I know a gajillion people that work at Facebook. I know a gajillion people that work at Google. You know how many people I know who work at Microsoft?
0.
You. I mean,
why is that? Why does Microsoft have no communication with people like me, and yet all the other tech companies do? It's interesting. I mean, I lived in New York for 17 years, so I'm an East Coaster at heart. Park Slope represent. Got married in Dumbo, lived in Maplewood, New Jersey for a long time. I mean, Peter's heart is palpitating right now.
He's a Brooklynite.
I mean, if we had the ability to have Skype and Peter's camera, I mean, he's like, okay.
Getting jittery.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, 3 years ago, I moved out to the Pacific Northwest. It was it's an interesting area of the country, of the world. I think sometimes Microsoft is on Redmond time rather than the rest of the world's time. But I think the company's changing a lot. I think, Satya Nadella as CEO is changing how we face the rest of the world, how we talk to people, how we approach people, I think, from different ages. I mean, you can't, I think, survive or live as a legacy company anymore. You have to constantly be transforming and transitioning all the time. I mean, as you know, working in media, what you're doing now is not what you're going to be doing, 5 weeks from now. That'll be very different. That's the same thing in modern business, and I think that's something that he's brought to the culture. I think the other people on his leadership team have really brought that as well. I get from a lot of Microsofties all the time, hey, you don't really fit the Microsoft profile, but I sort of enjoy that badge of honor. I think there are more people at the company trying to maybe look at things a little bit differently or outside the box. I think that's why we have more partnerships. I think that's why you have the things like the Office and Shutterstock partnership. I think that's why you have a lot of partnerships in the cloud computing space. I think that's how we're trying to also build our search engine. Bing is through a lot of partnerships, etc.
Do you think that VR? I'll tell you what the most interesting thing. My first deep experience with Microsoft was because of my Oculus. Because of my Oculus, I went out and I bought a top-of-the-line PC running Windows 10 for the first time in a long time. How do you think about being able to re-engage influencers and kind of bleeding-edge tech adopters because they're going to need PCs and might be on Macs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where you look at it sort of a platform agnostic world. I mean, this is something that hasn't been played out yet, but when I got to the company, there were a lot of people who were talking about how do we compete in this world in terms of being more platform agnostic. And I think the wearable space and VR, it's almost like high def way back in the day. There's not a lot of people creating content there, but I think once you get into that space, it's really anyone's game at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. When Microsoft considers growth opportunities, where do you think the focus is? Is it on Windows 10? Is it on Bing, the search ad business? Where is it?
I mean, Windows 10 is a big part of the business transformation. But I think one thing that if you think about it, I always like to explain analogies using soccer. I like Franklin Foer's book, How Soccer Explains the World. Your midfield is your engine for the team. That's what you really have to rely on the most. And I think what many people in business have sort of overlooked for a long time is our search capabilities. What we're doing with Bing, how we're trying to bring it to a variety of different platforms. One of the things that I think is also overlooked quite a bit, I remember when I came to the company in 2013, is Siri is powered by Bing. So there's a tendency of people to forget also we're behind the scenes, we're immersive.
I had no idea.
In a lot of our,
I had no idea. And look,
I think surprising to a lot of people.
I think you got to get more Microsoft people out there telling these kinds of stories. You got to get more Microsoft people coming here.
Out in the public.
I know everything in this space. I know nothing about sports. I know everything about that stuff. No idea Microsoft is powering Siri.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I think, we take a more immersive approach, but I think that's where technology's going. That's where communication's going in that respect. But I think once, if something works really well, people aren't going to question what powers it. They're going to just be happy that they can use it from a utilitarian standpoint. Mm-hmm. But I think there's just a lot of things that, people don't know. I mean, people also don't know that, market share in terms of search, Bing owns 33% of domestic search. That's a pretty decent number if we think about it. But I still meet a lot of marketers who they may not pay attention to us because they sort of take that ideology that all they need to do is bid on Google or use AdWords for their marketing. So
Geoffrey, Geoffrey, are you saying that Bing plays this midfielder role for Microsoft? Is that what you were trying to say there?
I won't speak for the entire company, but I mean that's something that I think if you think about what powers a lot of the technology in the future in terms of Cortana and AI and things that are being built at the company, search plays a huge part of it. I mean, you saw last night the fourth pillar being the Echo. I mean that is all built on search. So I think that's a huge area that I think that we can't ignore in terms of the future, in terms of how technology will ultimately evolve.
All right. Anyway, you've strep throat. Thank you so much for doing this. We were hoping to have you on set. You're a gentleman, a scholar, and a thought leader. What's the name of the book? Plug your book before we let you go.
Yeah, so it's I got a book coming out in August, Disruptive Marketing, What Growth Hackers, Data Punks, and Other Hybrid Thinkers Can Teach Us About Navigating the New Normal. It's out August 9th.
Okay, you know what we'll do? Maybe I'll make this a thing. I mean, disclosure, I guess. I don't know if I have to do a disclosure. If you email us at or just tweet us,
Yeah, you can tweet us.
Well, I mean, it's probably hard to get addresses that way. Just email us, partner@cheddar.com. The first 10 emails we get, we'll send copies of the book to.
Of a free book.
I think we can do giveaways,
How
right?
about that, Geoffrey?
Peter,
Yes.
Peter, am I allowed to do stuff like that?
Yeah.
There's no FTC issue about that?
No, you can do that.
Okay, fine. All right, we're going to give away 10
We're
copies
clear.
of the book. Maybe we'll do that part. You guys are so fast. How'd you get that on the screen?
Partner at Cheddar.
All right, $10. Okay.
Thanks, Geoffrey.
Coming up next,
Thanks, guys.
we will chat. Thank you, Jeff. We'll chat with Clear Meadow partner Jordan Rohan, but first,